This week, we're reeling in aggressive, explosive striking fish with shiners and topwater lures to plastic worms and crankbaits all over Florida in lakes, ponds, rivers, and canals.
That's right, Brie. Of course, we're talking about the official state water freshwater fish, the bass, on the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. This week we have our last live studio audience of the season joining us for one of the most popular species on our roster, bass, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Brie. You know, the thing that's so cool about bass fishing in Florida is that everybody seems to think, oh, we're just a saltwater state. But I'm going to tell you, Shaw's here tonight. He's going to clarify a few things, but I know that the Big O and some other lakes like Toho are on the list for most popular when it comes to all the bass anglers. They love coming here because of the big fish that Florida has to offer.
Exactly. Well, before we start our Bass Bash, let's go to the CCA Workbench where Dave Ferrell has a very special guest joining us this week. Rick already spoiled the surprise, but go ahead, Dave.
We got Shaw Grigsby here. Bass Hall of Famer. He's going to tell us all about how to catch these big Florida bass.
Oh, we can't wait. I bet he's got a lot of tips for us. All right, well, let's begin in the Seasucker Panhandle region where bass are only getting heavier and more concentrated. We can't wait for more details, so Pat, take it away.
Brie, I tell you what, bass fishing in the Panhandle is very popular. I don't personally freshwater fish much, but I know it's real popular up here. We've got several big reservoirs, handful of rivers, uncountable numbers of ponds and small lakes, all offering fishing opportunities. And Tony Big at Fort Walton Beach, he's my go-to for bass fishing information. And he reports Lake Seminole has been really good lately, with many 4 to 5 pound fish being caught. They're using frogs, crankbaits, black and red worms to catch them. He also reports the bass fishing in Choctawhatchee River is better than it's ever been in his memory. He's older than I am, so it's been a while. But years ago, he said 5 fish stringers maybe weighed 12 pounds. Lately, tournament 5 fish stringers have been well over 20 pounds, so the grade of fish has gone dramatically up. The water in the river is low, and the fish are concentrated in the oxbow lakes and side channels. And then finally, the area's got plenty of golf courses containing lots of water hazards, and the bass fishing in some of these little ponds can be very good. Dave Miller of Destin, he's the master of catching big bass in neighborhood ponds around town. And there's a photo of him showing off another really nice rainy day fish that he caught in a small little neighborhood pond.
Nice.
Perfect.
All right, what else we got, Pat?
Yeah, Rick, staying inshore, the scalloping over in St. Joe Bay has been really productive, but you have to get wet to get them. All the reports I'm hearing is that it's a fantastic year for them. You can fish the bay for reds and trout early and midday, and then gather some scallops, during the heat of the day. And there are plenty of them, and they're big. Search the grass flats and the potholes between Black's Island, Fresnel's, and the kayak launch near the stump hole. But be sure to have your Diaflag flying while in the water and be aware of the bag limits. Florida Fish and Wildlife is pretty vigilant and have a big presence in the bay during scallop season. Moving offshore, many anglers are still focusing on the gag groupers while they remain open for harvest. I think they close on the 15th, which is coming up pretty quickly. They're catching them on natural hard bottom areas, 120 to 200 plus feet of water. It doesn't have to be a big ledge. Often the flatter ginger bottom areas are the most productive. They're fishing using heavy tackle, keeping their weights bouncing on the bottom, using octopus, big pinfish, porgies, and bonita strips for bait. And in addition to the gags, there's a lot of red grouper being reported as well. There's a photo of a recent catch on the 100 proof out of Destin with Captain Island Staples. Big groupers and amberjacks. He's got quite a bit of fish on his hands right there.
Yes, sir. Looks good.
Rick, finally offshore, speaking of the amberjacks like those in the pictures, they are still open for harvest, and some big ones are being caught as seen, in that photo. The amberjacks are on the big metal wrecks and high-release natural bottom. The biggest fish are coming from deeper sites in 200 to 300 plus feet of water. The shallower wrecks of jacks, but most are too short for harvest. The baits of choice are going to be a blue runner, but butterfly-style speed jigs can also be very productive. The jacks are running up to and well over 50 pounds.
All right, Pat, thank you for starting us off on the Seasucker Panhandle region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Panhandle hotspots. Pat says that Inshore, the falling tide at the Destin Bridge and the Coast Guard jetties have been real good for big bull redfish. Use medium to heavy spinning outfits and fish live croakers on a slip sinker rig. And then if you want to go offshore, guys, all 8 Oskaloosa fads at the spur are back in place. Troll them for offshore pelagics and billfish.
It's Oka.
Okay,
Lusa.
you can call it what you want.
Oshkalushka. Ooh. Okay, our captain in the front runner boats Northeast region has an interesting take on the whole bass fishing thing. And honestly, Tommy, I couldn't agree more. Go for it.
That's right, Brie. Hey, I love bass fishing. I grew up doing it, especially when I was really young. And the front runner boats Northeast region, it's an awesome place to catch some bass. And one cool thing about bass fishing around here and just really Florida in general, just about any body of freshwater is going to hold some largemouth bass. And I think I say this every year, but, I like to think of a bass as a gateway fish. That's what I think we were talking about, Brie. And what I mean by that is a lot of people start off fishing for bass, like, in their backyard or their neighborhood pond, and they have so much fun doing it. It leads them to get more into fishing and ultimately, into buying a boat and getting into saltwater species that we talk about every week here on the show. Now, bass fishing is also a great way to go catch some fish for the angler that has, limited time to go fishing. Now, I've got some of my buddies, they work a 9-to-5 job. They can get to one of their neighborhood ponds by their house after work, catch a couple of nice bass, still be home in time for dinner. So that's awesome. We do have some fantastic trophy bass fishing in and around the St. Johns River, and there's just a bunch of great bass fishing lakes in the region. There's too many of them to mention them all. One cool thing about fishing for bass in the St. Johns and its creeks and the tributaries is that you can catch a bass on one cast and then one of our saltwater species like a redfish on the next cast, because a lot of those areas are brackish. You're going to find all kinds of different species there. And one way you can target bass specifically this time of year is to fish around the docks on up the St. Johns River, like around Palatka right now. It's really good with a live shrimp, mullet, or shrimp under a float. Now you can catch some big bass there. You're going to also catch some redfish, trout, flounder, even more these days, the occasional snook. They're showing up in better numbers in those areas. And I spoke to bass fishing guide Scooter Goodson. He tells me that the bass bite is great right now in the St. Johns, from kind of the southern part of Jacksonville all the way to Palatka. Now, Scooter told me the bass are eating shrimp under a cork right now like crazy. He said to target the docks, the shell bars, and the drop-offs along the sandbars. And I've got a picture here. Scooter Goodson, he sent me this picture of his client, Nikki, with one of those nice St. John's largemouth bass.
That's so cool, dude. All right, tell me about the flounders.
Yeah, man, the flounder, it's getting really close to my favorite time of year to target some big flounder. As we start to get some of these early season fronts pushing through from the northeast with that wind blowing from the northeast, the flounders start to stack up in and around the inlets, and the bigger fish start to show up as well. We've been catching some decent flounder on my trips lately, just as a bycatch while we're red fishing. But as it starts to cool off a little bit, I'm going to really start to target those flounder a little bit more. A small mullet fished on the bottom, it's always the go-to for this time of year. But the majority of my fish have been coming off soft plastic paddle tails and jerkbaits fished along oyster bars and grass lines around the schools of bait, same place the redfish are hanging out. Now, it seems like they prefer something in white or chartreuse. Those have always been my go-to flounder colors. Our good buddy, Courtney Wozniak from Fish Bites, she always seems to be on the flatties, and she sent me a picture that you guys got there. This is a nice flounder that Courtney caught on that Fish Bites Dirty Boxer curly tail in white, and I've heard nothing but great things about flounder and the Dirty Boxer. Seems like the way to go. Now, moving offshore, guys, the ocean has been a bit angry this week. It's probably a little bit of an understatement. It's been very angry, but the guys tell me the triggerfish bite is firing up right now. It's one of my favorite fish to eat, the triggerfish. It's a Northeast region favorite this time of year. I spoke to Captain Robert Holmquist from Lucky Bird Charters. He told me that when he's targeting those triggerfish, he's going to use cut cuttlefish as it stays on the hook in little pieces. It's less messy than your typical squid stuff. And he likes to target live bottom in about 130 feet or so. Typical setup is a double rig with a fairly small hook, something like a 2-aught circle hook with enough weight to hold the bottom. Now, also offshore, Pat was talking about them too. I spoke to Captain Adam Jeffrey from Real Dream Charters. He tells me that amberjacks, they're hanging out in about 80 feet and deeper right now. Adam said he's been targeting the reef donkeys on the larger ledges and on the wrecks. He said he's also been catching some really big ones all up and down the ledge, which is out there in 170 to 200 feet. Now, Adam said his favorite bait is going to be a live grunt on a Carolina rig. He's going to have his clients drop that down nice and slow. He said if the amberjacks are there, it's not going to make it to the bottom before you get bit. And I've got one last picture here. Captain Adam Jeffrey, he sent me this picture of an 86-pound amberjack they caught offshore St. Augustine. I bet that dude's back probably hurting right now.
Mine hurts for him.
It hurts looking at it. All right, man. Thank you so much, Tommy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone northeast hotspots. Tommy says that the redfish and the snook on top waters at first and last light on the higher water. The flounder around the low tide in and around those inlets, and then offshore. A good mixed bag of bottom fishing throughout the entire region. Triggerfish, beeliners, and muttons in 120 to 180 feet of water, Brie.
Bass, the gateway fish. Kind of like it.
I
Should be on a
like it.
t-shirt or something.
I like
All right,
it.
coming up, we're headed to the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques with Dave and Shaw at the CCA Workbench. Gentlemen, I know you've got some bass tips for us over there.
He does.
We just have questions, Dave.
He's got a lot. So Shaw's going to be doing most of the talking, right?
Well, I'm going to try.
Oh, he will be. And then the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is boasting some big old bass with the one and only Captain Jeff Hageman. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Berkeley Prospect Chrome. Fish Bites Trading Post. The first choice of First Coast anglers. Castaway Coffee. One taste and you'll be hooked. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
All right, we're here at the CCA Workbench for the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques, and we got Shaw Grigsby here, you know, Bass Hall of Famer. He's going to tell us a little bit how to catch these big Florida bass we got. We're going to start off with some topwater.
Yeah, you know, right now, this time of year, of course, Florida's a vegetation state, so we have a lot of vegetation from hydrilla and lily pads and all that. Yeah. So topwater, first thing in the morning, you know, walk the dog. But you know what Florida really is known for? All the topwaters work, but a prop bait is exceptional. Right. You know, whether it's a double prop or a single prop bait makes that little zzz sound when you're popping it, and they go. Yeah, they love that.
What are your favorite ones of those prop baits?
Well, I mean, it'd be like a devil's horse or anything like that that's got props. Yeah. If you got props, it's going to work. Okay. And so topwater I start with in the morning, and then
bladed jigs.
Yes. Around the grass beds, edges, pockets, get in those hydrilla edges, and you catch them on a bladed jig. So that's real good. So that's 1 and 2. The way you're going to catch the real big ones, though,
flipping.
We take a TK 130 trocar, big old flipping hook. We put a bug on it. So now what we do is we take an ounce or an ounce and a half tungsten. Now this is lead, so this is not a tungsten weight. Tungsten's about, you know, a third smaller.
Right.
Now a lot of people, you put that big tungsten on there and you put a small bug, a scound bug, any little critter bait. And the reason you want it small is because when you put the weight on it, it makes it a big package, but also it goes through the slop real easy. So flipping through that slop is how you're gonna catch these things, those big old pigs like that. So a lot of people will put a small bobber stop. You can see that right there, a small bobber stop on it. And what happens with that is it keeps that weight from moving. It puts it all in one package. But when the bass eats it, you've got to get that big weight out of his mouth before the hook penetrates. Right. So I don't do that. I'll take this thing off and I'll just fish it like this. So this will punch through the mat, and usually you kind of pitch it out, punch through the mat, the weight goes through the mat, and then this weight goes down, and this is held up on top of the mat. Then if you pop your line a couple times, that weight is holding it, it'll pull it through, match up, and there you go. So let it get down. Normally we let it go all the way to the bottom. Just check it gently and check it again, bring it up.
What's the advantage of the tungsten again versus a lead?
It's smaller. It's
Okay.
much more dense. It's smaller. Usually we're using, 50 or 65 pound braid. 65 is normal, but a lot more bites with the 50 than you do with the 65.
Now, is there any color preference for braid when
Yes.
you're doing that?
I use green. You can use green or black. Some people carry the black magic marker and go up and down and just do 6-8 feet of your line.
I got you. Now, do you use any kind of like frogs during this
Oh
time
my
of year?
goodness, yeah. Now that falls into the top water. And what's cool about Florida, because we have so much junk, those hollow body frogs, incredible, sexy frog. Fire them out there, again, 50 or 65 pound braid, good stiff rod, and just pop it. Now these things you can walk, by light twitches, or you can pop them, by popping the head. And so you're just quick snaps with the rod tip, and it makes them more.
Now, you actually mentioned earlier that you like to use some of the frogs with the little paddles on the back as well.
Round lily pads and stuff like that where you have scattered vegetation, tremendous. It's like a buzzbait, but it's an ATV buzzbait. It'll go through anything because you got it rigged weedless like this. You throw it out and you just...
And it's a little smaller as well.
But you got to let them, when they go poosh, you're watching the water go, so don't just jerk.
Right.
Immediately when you see that strike, and this is pretty much on all your topwater baits, you see that strike, just give it that half a second or second.
Yeah, that's one
and then
big.
come back
That's
on.
one of the big mistakes that most people get. They jerk that bait away from them, because they see the strike and they get all excited and just haul on it, and here comes the lure coming back at you. Because
Absolutely.
it's best to let him grab it and swim away with it first,
Exactly.
and then put the power to him. Yeah. Now, do you use many big worms
all the time.
as well?
Florida is since it's vegetation, Texas rig, soft plastic worm, incredible, or weightless, either way, And so you're just firing it out there, and you can swim this, or you can just let it fall down, Texas rig, and just pull it through the grass. They love plastic worms. That's a universal. I mean, that's like, bass fishing 101, that's the bait you want to have.
Yeah, I like to use these, this is called the RSB worm, redneck spinner bait, and I like to throw them in the lily pads and just burn them back across the surface.
You can race them.
And they love to smash them when they're up on the top like that.
You got to feed them too on that one. When they hit it, drop your rod, take a crank. And
well, we got about 30 seconds, Shaw. Is there any other thing up here that you'd like to say?
One thing I always like showing is this hook. We talked about the TK 130. That's your straight J hook. But this little guy right here, and that's the Pro V bend. So it's a TK 135 trocar hook. This thing is incredible. That little pocket right there, when you stick them, that seems to put it in their jaw right there or wherever, and it won't let them go. So you tend to catch a lot more fish with that.
All right,
hook.
that Pro V gets them locked down.
That's it. That's what it is.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming out here, brother.
Absolutely.
So, Brie, you know what I love about Shaw
Everything.
Grigsby and the Hall of Famer that he is?
Yes.
All his cool sound
I
effects.
Fire it out there.
You just don't know where he's going.
Incredible sexy frog.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
I love it.
All right, thanks, Shaw, for being here. We are in awe of Shaw. I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. All right, we're on the hunt for some big fish in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region's small ponds. So let's see what's swimming around with Captain Jeff Hageman.
Oh, it's great. You guys got Shaw in there with you. He is an unbelievable man. Great fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
Bass fishing, we got some great bass fish in my region. Thousands of lakes and ponds. Most of our bigger fish are caught in the winter months when the fish are spawning. Shiners, plastic worms, hard baits are all effective in my region. We also have a unique way of fishing them on Lake Tarpon. They'll actually get out and cast net shad and kind of fish like we're fishing in saltwater with a cast net to catch those shad, and then live chum them, throw them out like you're snook fishing, and get them busting on top. So it's a little different way to catch bass in my region, getting them popping on top. Also, slow trolling shiners over the grass beds is super effective. We have a ton of parks in my regions with lakes and ponds access, so you don't have to have a boat to go bass fishing. Check with your local park and recs or a local bait shop to get some more information on places you can go fish without a boat in our area. And moving on inshore, Captain Jim Pollard with Big Daddy Sport Fishing is reporting a great fight right now in Tampa Bay. The water's cooled off a little bit with the constant thunderstorms we're having every afternoon. Captain Jim's mostly targeting his trout around deeper water and deeper grass flats with depths in between 4 to 7 feet. He's targeting these trout on 4 to 5 feet of 20-pound fluorocarbon leader with a 2-aught circle hook, live filtered, and an 1/8-ounce jig head with the darker turbo tails have been working great. And I got a photo to prove that from Captain Jim with a nice Tampa Bay Tampa Bay trout.
Nice.
Yeehaw.
All right, what else you got for us, Jeff?
Moving offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters. The gag grouper bite's been really good right now. It's been on fire. We're open right now. We've got a short season. He's catching them right now in anywhere from 150 to 250 feet of water, 80-pound fluorocarbon leader, 8 to 10 ounces of lead, depending on the current, 6 to 8-aught trocar circle hook, and he's finding them mostly on ledges and hard bottom. Captain Mario Costello out of Tall Tales Charters out of Ozilla Keys Marina reports a good gag grouper bite right now. He's fishing a whole lot shallow water, that's 4 to 8 feet of water, and they're always eating his go-to bait has been a pinfish free line. They're a target to blast in that shallow water and also with a spear gun. Gag's been ranging anywhere from 27 inches down to just below keeper size, and shallow water has been his key. The deeper water spots, 30-plus feet, have been doing a little bit better for those bigger gags. I got a photo here from Captain Rob of a nice St. Pete grouper.
Wow.
Nice.
Pretty photo.
All right, what else you got? One more to go.
That's it.
Mangrove snappers, come on.
Mangrove snapper is good on the offshore reefs and wrecks in 20 to 40 feet of water. Live sardines and pinfish or shrimp are all been the bait of choice. Knocker rig with just enough lead to get it to the bottom, or free line with a lot of chum out the back of the boat and drift that over the structure with a little sardine has been working well as well.
All right, bub. Well, I miss you, man. We had a good time when we were down in Trinidad filming the Sportsman's Adventures, but we got to come back and go to work every once in a while. Appreciate you going with me and Rich.
I had a blast. It was unbelievable.
All right, I'll tell Shaw you said hello. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hot spots from the Northwest region. He says redfish on the top of the tide in the deep cuts adjacent to the mangrove shorelines, or maybe on the flats. You might want to use cut bait with a 4-0 trocar circle hook. And then if you guys want to go offshore, snapper on the high relief structure in 25 to 40 feet of water. Use shrimp and a sardine with light lead on a knocker rig and a 1-0 trocar circle hook for them snappers.
We'll have to discuss this whole Trinidad trip that we had, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure you had fun.
You weren't allowed to go in that way.
Okay. CCA Florida Star, presented by Yamaha, has announced their winners and will be celebrating and awarding 100 boats, motors, prizes, and scholarships at the 10th Annual Star Awards Banquet and Ceremony, presented by Discover Crystal River on October 12th at the Grove of Sweet Citrus Acres. You can join in on the celebration and be a winner by supporting conservation as always. Tickets to the award celebration include dinner, drinks, entertainment, plus a swag bag filled with goodies. To purchase tickets, head to CCAFLStar.com. It's always a fun time. All right, we're hitting up the lakes, ponds, and rivers in the Rio Legends Central East region when we come back. But first, our Fish Bites East region has it going on the big pond like every week with Captain Mike Holliday. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio, blue light blocking, radically clear polarized fishing sunglasses, Scoozy Shoes, the captain's choice for premium lightweight comfort, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Penn, let the battle begin, Kubota, together we do more, and the International Order of T. Roosevelt, protect your right to fish.
So you know, Brie, being able to monitor what's going on your boat is critical.
Absolutely.
So check out what they showed me at the boat show from Siren Marine.
Let's see it.
Hey guys, as you can tell, I'm here at the show, and with me is Alex from Siren Marine. You know, Alex, why don't we tell everybody what Siren Marine is?
Sure, thanks, Captain Rick. Well, Siren Marine is a boat monitoring and telematics company. We specialize in monitoring boat theft and monitoring solutions for your boat. And it all starts right here with the Siren 3 Pro. The Siren 3 Pro is the brains of the operation. This device here includes a global SIM card that you're able to track your boat from your phone and view things like battery voltage, or get notifications all through our all-new Android and iPhone application. So this device here does have an internal backup battery just in case the device that the boat that you're monitoring does lose power. It's actually going to keep itself powered for about 2 days, allowing you to continue to track your boat if it is ever stolen.
Now, I understand how that could be for theft, but why do we have it as an example, an opening hatch, or even this canvas?
Of course. So other than just true theft deterrence, we're also a system monitoring company. We have sensors to monitor things like shore power loss or additional battery banks, things that make sure that your day on the water won't be ruined and you're not walking down to the dock with any surprises on a Saturday morning.
I love that. Now talk a little bit about this canvas here.
Yeah, sure. So this base snap is actually a theft deterrent, and it replaces any base snap around your boat. Someone can come and unsnap this canvas, and we can trigger things like an audible alarm or a siren or your boat's horn to go off to scare the thief away, all with this little discrete magnet canvas snap sensor.
And then what does the bilge pump have to do with Siren?
So again, monitoring critical systems is important to keeping your day on the water successful. So being able to monitor your boat when you're not there, Siren Marine will be the eyes and ears. That means monitoring high water alarms, bilge pump cycles. If your boat is taking on water and overcycling, hourly counts, daily counts, we will send you that notification straight to the phone.
So we'll be able to is it an app?
That's correct. You can download the Siren Connected Boat app on the Apple or Android App Store. And actually, we're pretty excited because now we're going to be integrating with My Yamaha Outboards, bringing the maintenance tracking ability of the My Yamaha Outboards app with the boat monitoring ability of Siren Marine.
Alex, if anybody has any questions about Siren Marine, where do they go, bud?
Sure, they can go to sirenmarine.com, or please go and visit your closest Yamaha dealer and inquire about Siren Marine.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a no-brainer to me.
Absolutely. Keep
All right.
track of what's going down.
Exactly. Okay, our captain in the Reel Legends Central East region is really narrowing it down when it comes to reeling in a bass. So, Jim, make it easy for us.
Yeah, I used to grow up bass fishing, and I found that there was only a couple of things that I needed to carry in my pocket, because we had bass in every lake, pond, creek, freshwater river around the Central Florida area, and I used to love fishing them all. But I'll tell you, it really boils down to just a couple of things. One of those three types of things that you need is sort of a topwater plug or frog, kind of like what the guys were talking about at the workbench there. Something that makes a commotion on the top. You can fish those around the Kissimmee grass, the edges of hydrilla, even around some of the edges of the spatter dock, and mainly during the low light periods. That's where you're going to get those topwater blow-ups. The next thing you need is a softwater jerk bait, like a Bass Assassin 5-inch Shad Assassin, and you probably want to rig that weedless to help it slide through the vegetation. A fat job rigged in a wacky style is another one that works really good. It's kind of a do-nothing style worm around some of those weeds and things. Works really good, especially through the midday periods. And then when you've got that summer heat and the bass are buried, real deep in the vegetation, you need to punch into that cover. And so a big weighted bait, a creature-style bait like a whoopa craw or a skunk ape, gets down in that vegetation and gets into them. So, if all else fails, though, a live wild shiner under a float is going to catch you a bass in just about any body of water you want to fish, because bass can see those things and feel those things, hear them, whatever you want to call it, from miles away, it seems like, whenever those bait fish are struggling, and they'll come and get you one. Now, staying inshore, our mullet run is still going really strong right now. The snook bite is super strong, but we've got, other mixed bag of fish in there. But the mullet run's in full force on the Space Coast right now, and anglers chasing the bait fish schools up and down the beaches of the Reel Legends region are seeing some incredible blow-ups and some great mullet ambushes by some of these predators. And, bluefish, ladyfish, and jacks are the most common, but snook, reds, tarpon, flounder, even sharks and king mackerel are in there blowing up on them. The fingerling mullet, you want to rig that on a 1/2-ounce jig head, pitch it up into the surf. If you're getting bit off, put a little piece of number 4 wire on there to keep the sharks and blues hooked up instead of cutting you off. And I tell you, I really like a lip diving plug to get in those mullet and work under those mullet. I swap out some of the treble hooks for the single hooks, especially the one on the rear, and I seem to be able to release fish that I don't want to keep a whole lot easier. Got a photo here of a nice snook that we had to the boat just the other day.
Nice. Tell me about the cobias, bub.
Well, I tell you what, Rick, it's one of those weird years. We've got cobia all through the parts of the year that we don't normally have cobia. And it's not making any sense, but nobody's complaining in the Central East region. 60 to 120 feet of water seems to be where you're going to find the major concentrations of them. So places like South Pelican Flats, Bethel Shoal, any of those 70 to 90 foot bars. But don't overlook, you might find them out in 180 or 200 feet as well. And live baits are the best way to get these fish to eat. So a croaker, a grunt, a pogie, a pilchard all work really well. Drop them down on a knocker rig or a slide and sinker rig, and you can get those fish to come back up. Now, when you're pulling one up, make sure that you have an additional pitch rod ready in case there's other fish that come up with him. Got a picture of a nice little one here. Make sure you net them as well, because some of them aren't quite 36 inches. And so like with this one, we put him on the boga grip so that we could get him back in the water real quickly after we pulled him out of the net and get him revived and get him going. And then the last species we've got, Central Florida guys lately have been catching really great numbers of wahoo. On the 70 to 90 foot reefs though, not where we normally get them. Normally you think of them out on the 21 fathom, the 27 fathom, and the cones. These fish have moved in and they're feeding on these large blue runners. They're feeding on mullets as well, and they're feeding on small king mackerel. So don't be shocked if you come in and you got a mackerel bite from a wahoo. Most of the time, the bigger baits that you can pull are going to get those wahoo to bite. If you're just wanting to catch the kingfish though, keep those smaller baits on and you can catch them as well. Now, most of our wahoo that are coming in right now are running anywhere from about 40 or 50 to upwards of about 70 pounds. So there's some really, really nice fish out there right now. Just be aware, pull a bigger bait and you should have a shot at them.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots. Jim says that inshore, the mullet run, it's in full swing at the inlets. Use live finger mullets or lures that imitate them for a mixed bag of including snooks, redfish, jacks, flounders, bluefish, and others. And then offshore, the mangroves, the lanes, and the vermilion snappers on the reefs and wrecks in 80 to 130 feet of water. Use live or cut fingerling mullet on a knocker rig and fill your cooler full of fish. What do you think?
Good to me. All right, well, the Fish Bites East region gives us a bass report every week, but this week, Captain Mike Holliday is making it extra special and giving us some extra tips and spots to try out. Mike, we have an extra special guest for you.
I just wanted to say hi, Mike.
Man. I haven't seen him in a long time.
It has been. I tell you, I had a great time with you.
We did. We threw topwater plugs on seawalls during the fall mullet run.
See, remember, he could probably tell you what the tide was and what color the lure and all that
I can tell you the spot we fished is a place called Tea Time.
There you go.
Time.
Tea
Well,
time.
he had a special
I just wanted to
request
say
hi.
thank you. Yeah.
It was fun.
I'll get out of
Stay
the way.
here, stay here. Go ahead. All right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike. Get us started.
So in my region, we got some of the top bass fishing lakes in the country in Lake Okeechobee and Headwaters Lake, and the Stick Marsh Farm 13 complex and the Garcia Reservoir. But don't overlook the smaller stuff that has good access from both boat and shore, like the Lake Osborne Ida chain, the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge, the Savannah's Recreation Area, or even some of the small, residential ponds and canals. In my region, you can catch a bass out of a mud puddle. And as a rule, the summer pattern is a dawn and dusk schooling fish bite or a single fish bite also at that time. Everything's slowing down as the day heats up. In the middle of the day, you want to look for moving water or you want to look for good cover where the fish can hide from the sun and from the heat. That's typically, weed beds. For baits, you want to fish a June bug colored worm like a Bass Assassin RSB worm in that dirty water and a green pumpkin worm in the clear water. And soft plastics like an elite shiner or a fork-tailed shad or a 5-inch shad in the shad colors. That's what you want to fish on the schooling fish. And in Florida, a blue and chrome lipless crankbait, a white spinnerbait, or a topwater plug, a prop bait style topwater plug are always going to be good around any of the places that you want to fish. Don't overlook the frog bite, particularly in places like Headwaters Lake. Average bass in my region is going to be 1 to 3 pounds, but a lot of fish up to 7 or 8 pounds this time of the year. Biggest in the wintertime and early spring. I got a photo of a bass that Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com sent me. That's a shot of one of his clients with a big Headwaters Lake bass. That kid caught it on a live shiner. Now, staying inshore, We're starting to see the extreme high tides of fall, and the snook bite shifted to the shorelines, the docks, and the seawalls. It's a daytime bite there, and then at nighttime it's on the bridges and the docks. There's still a lot of fish in the inlets and on the beaches. Don't overlook the beach bite at the Lake Worth and Juno Beach piers. The key right now is to find the mullet. The snook will be traveling the shorelines with the mullet schools. If you see a school getting blown up around a dock, the fish are on the school, they're not on the dock. So follow the school as it moves down the shoreline. Don't just stay on that dock. And you want to match the size of your lure or your bait to the size of the mullet that are in the area. You can throw topwater plugs, swimming plugs. You can throw soft plastics like a saltwater assassin Artemis shad or a sea shad or even a dye dapper. Throw that in the mullet colors. Live or dead mullet are going to work. A mullet head on the bottom is one of the most productive big snook baits. At night, things like topwater plugs, swimming plugs, and soft plastics do really well around the bridges. Swim baits are money on the shadow lines and on the docks. Average snook weight region 5 to 18 pounds. And I got a shot of Captain Will George with a nice slot-sized snook he got off the Juno Beach pier. That's Coach Will George, I'm sorry. And that fish ate a live pilchard.
Man, good job there, Coach. All right, what do you got offshore there, pup?
Well, you know, we've had a really nice fish, a mostly small dolphin through this region the last 4 or 5 days. The fish are holding around the weed lines in anywhere from 70 feet of water on out. And there's 2 keys right now to productive fishing. One is to be on the water early and be the first to the weed lines or the color changes or to come across the fish. The other is to cover a lot of water. You can run and gun, stopping at the weed patches or looking for floating objects or birds that you can fish. But you'll do just as well to pull ballyhoo or a feather and strip combination until you hook a fish and then work that area for other fish. Catching a live bait right now has been a little bit tough. So this is a really good time to take advantage of the mullet run. Cast net a live well full of mullet and take them offshore. The larger mullet troll better and have more productive profile. But the dolphin really aren't discriminatory. They'll eat a finger mullet just as well. Look for the rips, edges, color change like you normally do. Fish them for 15 or 20 minutes. If you don't get a bite, move on. Average dolphin 5 to 15 pounds. And I got a photo of Andre Arroyo. He sent me this shot of 3 dolphin that they got on a weed line, 70 feet of water off Hope Sound, and that fish ate a live mullet. The other thing we had, it's been a little bit of a slow summer for mutton snapper, but we're seeing a nice wave of fish hitting the reefs. The Loran Ledge, the Sand Pile, the 6 and 8 mile reefs, the reef off Juno, and even some of the shallow stuff like the reefs along Peck's Lake off Hope Sound and the patch reefs off Jupiter. They're all seeing good pushes of muttons right now. A lot of those muttons are in that 16 to 20 inch range, particularly on that shallower stuff, anything under 60 feet of water. So make sure you know the snapper size and aggregate limits. Target the fish with pilchards, threadfin, sardines, sand perch, pinfish, either live or dead. You can catch grunts off the reef, make grunt plugs or ballyhoo plugs. On the shallow reefs, you can fish a 3/8 ounce to a 1/2 ounce jig head and pin a bait to that and drop it down. Most of those fish are on the lower end of that 18-inch limit. You can use 20-pound spinning gear for them. And then out on the deeper reefs, 30 to 50-pound gear is a key. Average mutton, 5 to 12 pounds. And I got a photo that the Salty Days charter boat out of Port St. Lucie sent me this shot of a nice mutton that they caught on the 6 mile reef. And that fish ate a ballyhoo and jig combination.
It sure did. Mike, thank you so much, man. What a great report. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots. Mike says that inshore, the snook and the tarpon on the mullet schools in Fort Pierce Inlet at night. Live mullet, swimming plugs, and Artemis shads. Those jigs are going to work on a jig head is going to work real well. And then offshore, the mangrove snappers, 65 to 75 feet of water off of Fort Pierce, sardines, cigar minnows, pilchards, and small blue runners is going to work for those mangrove snaps.
Snaps. All right, well, coming up soon is more of the Shoreline Showdown Surf Fishing Tournament Series presented by Fish Bites. 4 tournaments, 1 championship, and over $75,000 in guaranteed payouts, plus fishing for a chance to qualify to compete for the title of the Ultimate Surf Angler. We are 2 down with 2 more to go, so for more information on dates and locations, scan that QR code or visit shorelinesshowdown.com. But coming up, the Alta Equipment Southwest Region Captain is giving us his 2 cents of bass wisdom. But first, Dave is enticing us to spend way more than 2 cents at the CCA Workbench for Taco Marine new products.
I can't wait for those next 2 shore-down challenges. You know, I kind of skunked out the first 2, so
You still could be the ultimate surf angler. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench. Time for the Taco Marine new products. And Dave, you know the cool part about the Workbench? Well, it's not always about tackle sometimes.
No, we have beverages.
Yes, we do.
We got the Castaway Coffee Bass Kicking Blend over there. You know, wake up and catch some bass, because this thing has double the caffeine per cup as a normal coffee.
Yes.
So, yeah, it'll give you a little bit of a jolt. High caffeinated coffee with twice the caffeine. Smooth medium roast. They're official partner of Bass, the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, and a portion of every bag sales goes to bass conservation efforts. It goes to habitat conservation, invasive species, and responsible angling practices. So
nice.
Yeah, you can, and they're also part of the CCA Florida and 1% for the Planet Initiative. So these guys really do a lot for the fishermen and our fisheries. So if you're going to drink coffee, you might as well drink it from somebody who's doing us a good thing.
It's your way to give back just through your cup of coffee.
Right.
Makes great sense.
Castaway Coffee is what it is.
Is that where we go?
Yep, castawaycoffee.com.
Okay.
Next, we have the 5-inch shad from Bass Assassin. We got 3 new colors: the baby bass, the northern minnow, which is my favorite, my personal favorite,
the northern minnow,
and the crystal shad, which is that white one down there.
I love the baby bass.
Yeah. What's really cool about these 5-inch shad is they have a natural bait fish profile, and that long little tail, that whippy tail, it gives them a really good darting and gliding action. And when it's just sitting still, you know, it jubilates just like that.
Oh, you took it from me. You took my word, jubilate.
I stole it. So these are really nice baits, and they have that really cool, convenient belly spot in there to put your hook in there, so you can do them really weedless. And go to bassassassin.com to get your 5-inch shads. So they're really nice.
All right.
Next, we have the Savage Gear Pulse Shiner on the loose body. It looks and swims like the real thing. These are made from a 3D image of a shad. You know, the patent pending pulse tail there. When it's moving, that tail is really kicking. It has a built-in rattle. It's got a line through design, and, you know, high quality hand painted details on there, and a real nice heavy hook, so you don't have to change it. And they're pretty much weedless. You know, when it comes right out of the top of that top fin. It's a really thick hook. So if you hook a big one, you don't really have to worry about that hook bending out. Comes in 7 different colors, 4-inch and a 5-inch version, 1 1/4 ounce and a 3/4 ounce weight. So, you know, whatever you want to do with them, you can do. They're just really good, especially for a bass show. You throw that into some bassy water, you're going to get lit up.
SavageGear.com?
SavageGear.com. And you can put the www in there if you want. You don't even have to, probably.
We don't have to do that anymore.
I know. Next, I'm old. Next, we have the Pompano Rich Pompano jigs from my good buddy Rich Vitalich. He pretty much, yeah.
Rich
You got to be careful. Rich Vitalich. He really got me started in the surf business. You know.
I'm glad you clarified what he got you started.
Yeah,
in.
he really did. And, you know, these are rigs. He's got the Surfari rig and the Pomp Hunter. That's a Pomp Hunter right there. The Pomp Hunters have a 10 millimeter float. That's a smaller float.
Right.
And these are crab-proof, indestructible floats. And the Surfari ones, as you can tell, are just a little bit bigger float, 15 millimeter floats. And both of them have 2/0 circle hooks. The Surfaris use 30-pound fluoro. That's the hook that I use. That Surfari is my go-to surf rig. I catch everything on that, from good-sized sharks to pompanos, my favorite, whitings, bluefish, and I like that little bit heavier monofilament. The Pomp Hunters are mainly for pompanos, so they're on the 20-pound. And he also sells the long tail stainless steel Sputniks in 2 to 8 ounce. So everything you need, go to Pompano Rich. I think I just spit it. PompanoRich.net.
All right.
And he'll set you up.
You were product rich over here, bub.
Say it, don't spray it. You're getting ready to be the ultimate surf angler, Dave.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
You can do this. All right, we've got everything for you anglers in the Alto Equipment Southwest region this week, from bass to African pompano. So listen up to Captain Ronnie Houston. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like always, guys, it's a pleasure being here. With the abundance of fresh water this summer, actually throughout the whole region, most canals, spillways, lakes, and areas along I-75 hold bass. Now, with so many baits to name, if I was going to try to break down some water, my go-tos are going to be topwater walk-the-dog lures, chugging lures, your prop baits like the Berkeley Chapo and the 90. When it comes to worms, worms and Spinkos 5 to 8 inch. Probably your most popular colors are going to be watermelon and black and blue. But then also you can use a variety of popping frogs. That Berkeley New Swamp Lord has been a great popping frog that's been working real well. But, to keep it real easy, if you're not interested in the artificial, get to your local tackle shop and look up for some golden, wild shiners. Walking and casting the edges, especially with the water being high right now, along areas of vegetation. That's going to draw the bait. That's generally where the fish are going to be, like early morning or late evening. Scanning the areas that don't have vegetation, you want to look for movement, wakes, an area of bait. That's also going to be another area, if you don't have vegetation around, where these fish are going to hold. Where there's bait, there's fish. And I've got a nice picture of a prime example of the water being high this year. That fish was caught down in the Everglades, way up in the backcountry, not too far from the ramp. And because of all the fresh water, it changes salinity levels. We're catching bass right now up in the Everglades backcountry. So on the inshore side, the redfish, Bull Bay and Turtle Bay, lower water right now along potholes and troughs, also along flats leading towards the mangroves. Now, as the water rises, these fish will be tight to the bushes. So once our water gets up, we'll look for areas where it's high and roaming mullet. That's where the fish are going to get to. Estero Bay, the east wall from Rocky Creek to Hickory Bay, is going to basically fish the same scenario, just a different part of the region, but they're real similar. To the south, things change a little bit. Coon Key, south, your outer Gulf Islands. Again, you want to look for areas of fry bait and also finger mullet schools that are really moving into the region right now. A variety of baits, cut baits against the mangroves, your live pinfish. You can find the pilchers away from where all this fresh water is right now. Chumming them up will work well. But, gold spoons, topwater walk-the-dog lures, simple soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails on jig heads will also be working if you can't find that bait. And I have a picture of a nice oversized redfish recently caught while fishing out of Naples with Captain Chris Broom.
Nice.
Offshore side right now, African pompano. We don't talk about it a lot. I've talked about it quite a bit, though, this year because the bite's been that good. Been very consistent, especially on your moderate days where you can get out right now, 75 to 95 feet of water. Typically using some small pinfish. If you can get some live pilchers off the beach, the smaller ones, those will work well. You can either use cigar minnow chunks and even cut squid. But the bite seems to be on fire once you find them in good moving current. I'll give you a little tip. You can use cut squid. Try to get you some 3/8 to half-ounce jig heads. Just drop them out once you find these areas and just let that squid slowly drift into the current. Once it works its way to the bottom, you should be hooking up with some African pompanos. And got a nice picture of one here caught while working that pattern with hog wild charters out of Naples. So the African pompanos are plentiful. Last species is going to be the gag groupers. We still got a couple days left of gag groupers. It was open for a short time. Both south and north ends of the region. Captain Gordy Watson, got a report from him today. Got some nice gags in about 140 to 170. Bo Johnson up to the north, his report's about the same, 140 to 170 up in the northern end for keeper size gags. Both these guys are fishing ledges and areas of hard bottom. With a few days left, the variety of baits you want to have, though, when you're making that run out there, your live pinfish, your herring, maybe some grunts, cigar minnows. Don't discount the cut baits. Again, if you got that good moving current that's been triggering a bite, you all got to make sure, guys, you got plenty of weight down the bottom. Another nice fish while fishing with Captain Bo Johnson caught. So the gag groupers and African pompanos. Weather looks good for the weekend, guys. Get out and catch you some fish.
All right, bud. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the battery tender hot spots from the Southwest region. Ronnie says the Trout, Coon Key to Pavilion Key, outer Gulf points and Gulf edges, 5 to 8 feet of water, using soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails. And then offshore, the permit the snappers on the wrecks and artificial reefs from Marco to Fort Myers Beach, Brie.
The Alta Equipment Southwest region is on fire. Those photos, are you kidding me?
I know.
Go, Ronnie. All right, Floridians, if you didn't know, fishing and hunting are under attack. And thankfully, the International Order of T. Roosevelt is fighting back. Florida's economy relies on fishing, supporting thousands of jobs and generating billions of dollars. Anglers, join the fight. Visit SaveFloridaFishing.com and pledge your vote with IOTR in 2024. The registration deadline is fast approaching to protect our heritage, so please don't wait. Our sport is at stake this November.
Everybody in here better be signed up before they leave, or they're not going to be able to let them leave.
It's not a joke.
No.
It's really happening, guys.
No,
so make sure you do it. All right, the Tron Central West and Casava Southeast regions both have some big bass bragging to do coming right up, so stay hooked. And remember to keep up with everything fishing. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures, along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Captain Rick Murphy. We'll see you soon.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Tron. Start, run, and store with Tron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. Takeuchi, from world first to world leader. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back. All right, we're going to head into the Tron Central West region with Captain Jeff Page and discuss the different bass catching techniques transitioning from summer to fall, winter, and early spring. Take it away, Jeff.
All right. Well, in the Tron Central West region, we have an abundance of bass fishing, and it probably all starts out east of I-75. That's not to say there's not some good neighborhood and golf course ponds that hold some really big bass, but for waters that you can launch a boat or a kayak or a canoe, Myakka State Park, Lake Manatee, and even Brie in certain parts of the Peace, Myakka, Manatee, and Braden River, and of course certain times of year. You way up the rivers, you're going to have fish up there in the winter, but out more in the open waters of the lakes and rivers, you're going to have them year round. Now, there's some really good largemouth bass fishing in the heat of the summer, but it's an early morning thing and a late afternoon thing, and Mike Holliday always touches on that when he's giving his report. Live shiner under a cork is always going to get you a bass in the heat of the summer, but don't be afraid to throw soft plastics like the Bass Assassin 7, 8, or 9-inch curly tail worm. And a good color in our region is the motor oil or the June bug color. And you can rig that with a 3 or a 4-aught weedless worm hook. Rig it Texas style with a slip weight in front of it. It's very effective, as is chatterbaits and twitch baits, Rick, like the saltwater Berkeley stick shad or the jute. And I like those for bass fishing in the smaller size, in the golden black, or the chartreuse or chartreuse and bone colored. Now, as for neighborhood ponds and golf course ponds, some of them are on private property, but some of them, especially when you're a kid, you seem to be able to do more stuff like that without paying a penalty, if you know what I mean. Now, the last thing is a lot of these lakes have bluegills, speckled perch, and catfish as well. So anyway, no matter how you look at it, StarTron Central West Bass Fishing is a big hit, and my photo tonight is of a good friend of ours, Sheriff Jimmy Adams and his son Alex, and that's their 5-fish limit. They fish in the Venice Bass Club tournaments.
Wow.
Staying inshore, gag grouper. You know, we touched on him last week on the offshore, and this week we're touching on him inshore because thanks to a tragedy back in 1982 when the Skyway collapsed, a lot of that rubble and a lot of that debris, they have dispersed all in South Tampa Bay and even out along the near shore area. And some of the best grouper fishing, especially when the weather's a little sketchy, can be inside the bay, within sight of the Skyway, and then also down in Charlotte Harbor, in the middle of that harbor, same stuff. That's why it's a good idea to always keep marks on your machine. Fish can be up to 30 inches inshore grouper fishing, and you can get them with live bait just like you would offshore. But a lot of guys, like my buddy Paul Azinger, he loves trolling lift plugs all around the down structure and anywhere from 8 to 20 feet. So you have to get the lift plug according to that. But a good color for that is pink or chartreuse. It shows up real good in that deeper water. And my photo tonight is of Scott Lee with a beautiful gag he got right at daylight with master grouper man Captain Josh Prunier of Rippin' Lips.
All right.
Now moving offshore, the cobia, Rick, I was going to mention them last week, but I wanted to hit on the gag, but this week I'm going to hit on them because I don't know if it was from all that weather from Tropical Storm Debbie or not, but a lot of cobias have moved in as close as 1 mile to 3 miles on the artificial reefs and wrecks. No, you're not always going to see them on surface cruising, but you are going to see them following fish that you're bringing up from the bottom. So it's a good idea to have a live pitch rod ready to throw with a pinfish or a grunt or even a big pilchard. And it's a good idea to have a pretty heavy rod. And I've got a photo tonight with a happy client with a big cobia they got with Captain Brian Marcy, Breakwater Charters.
Nice.
And my last species is one of your favorite, Rick, the mangrove snapper, and he remains a really consistent bite, holding on hard bottom areas as well as ledges in as close as 30 feet, but those bigger fish are out there in that 100 to 150 feet. Chum bags are a must. Cut up small pieces of pilchards, put a small piece on the hook, or use a whole pilchard on a 1 to 2/0 light wire circle hook on 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon, and you're going to have good luck with the mangs. And my photo tonight is a big mang with Captain Jason Stock of Full Send Charters.
All right, thanks for all the pictures this week, Captain Page. We'll talk to you soon. It's time for the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. He says inshore, the nighttime snook fishing between Anna Maria Rod and Reel Pier, as well as the Longboat Pass, has been producing some big snooks. Live ladyfish, grunts, and pinfish are your best bait. And then offshore, the big amberjacks are holding 70 to 150 feet of water over the ledges and in the springs. Live blue runners and pinfish are your best live bait, guys. But vertical jigging, it can be done and be very effective as well.
It can be done and it can be super fun. All right, there are many places in the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region to target a largemouth or a peacock or two, but the urban canals are the coolest by far in my opinion, so let's see what Captain Jimbo Thomas has to say.
That's right, Brie, and hello everybody else. Yep, in the Southeast region, we can get largemouth bass pretty much anywhere that you got fresh water. One of the great things about bass fishing is you don't really need a boat, and in most areas, you can get a boat, you can walk the shoreline, fish lakes, canals, and then also the wind and the weather is not much of a factor because you're fishing in the canals and stuff. But the Everglades, they also have some great bass fishing, especially the water levels are low, which concentrate the fish in the deeper holes, and catches of 50 or more fish a day are not uncommon when the water levels are low. And when they're high, which is right now, the fish move up onto the flats and they get a little more spread out, but the fishing can also still be very good. Now, the urban lakes and canals, which are hot right now, throughout the whole region, they offer some great bass fishing for both largemouths and peacocks, and they're not affected by the water levels so much. Now, the best bass bite is going to be early in the mornings and then later in the afternoon into the evening when those water temperatures aren't so hot. That's for the largemouth. The peacocks, they're going to bite throughout the whole day. They like it right in the middle of the day. And some of the best baits are live shiners, Bass Assassin, artificial worms. You want to rig them Texas style, surface lures, crankbaits, and spinner baits. And there's 10,000 other bass baits, and that's just to name a few. Now I got a photo here. This is a good friend of mine, Andy Lauderdale, with a nice peacock bass that he caught up in Broward County. And he's been killing them up there on artificial baits. Now, the snook fishing remains good in the inlets and also in the surf and off the beaches. In the inlets, you want to fish with live baits like herrings, pilchards, pinfish, croakers, or you can bounce jigs or soft plastics along the bottom. And the best bite has been in the evenings. The snook have also been biting on both tides, but the outgoing seems to be a little better. And they've also moved off the beaches because there's been a lot of bait coming down, especially pilchards. So you got snook following these pilchards there, and you can catch them from both the shore and by boat. If you're shore-bound, try walking the beach in the early morning or late afternoon and cast green and white Bass Assassin 4-inch jerk baits into the trough just off the beach. And if the seas are calm and the water clear, you might be able to sight fish these snook. They'll be cruising up in the surf, and they're going to be following the bait. Now, the smaller fish are roaming in schools, and the larger ones have generally been in singles or pairs. Got another photo here. This is Craig Fountain with a snook that he caught along the western shoreline of Biscayne Bay, a little selfie snook shot there. And then offshore, we still find a dolphin, although it's been really hit or miss, just like it's been. You want to look for these dolphin anywhere from 5 to 20 miles offshore, and anything floating has been holding these fish, and they've been mostly schoolies in the 5 to 8, 5 to 10 pound range. There's been very little sargassum coming through, and it's been scattered at best, but we've had birds working over most of the fish and over those floaters. So the catching the fish is the easy part. You just got to find them. We've been getting them on trolled baits like Rick ballyhoos, small lures, and feathers. And then once you locate the fish or locate that floater, you can try casting small live baits like blue runners, pilchards, or you can cut bonita and ballyhoo. We're fishing them on 20-pound spinners. And there's also been some wahoos hanging underneath any of these floaters. So if you find a good floater, there's going to be wahoos there. And then speaking of wahoo, August and September full moons are one of the best times of the year to target wahoo, and we're coming up on the September full moon next week. Now, in the last week, there's been a fair amount of wahoo caught. The bite should continue both for roughly 5 or 6 days after the moon as well. Now, the bulk of the wahoos, they've been caught from Boca north of Palm Beach, but anywhere you can find some north current and blue water, the wahoo should be there. You want to fish live baits under the kite or on the drift, and anywhere from 150 to 300 feet of water. That's where a lot of the bites are coming from. And you want to use a big bait to attract those wahoos. And if you can come up with a live well full of pilchards or sardines, a live chum, definitely help attract those wahoos as well as other fish. Now, if you don't have any live baits, trolling will get his fair share of bites. You want to troll a drone spoon or a feather and a bait or a sea witch and strip bait combo on a planer, number 3 or 4 planer. You want to get it down deep, or you can use a wireline outfit and troll anywhere from 6 to 10 knots. And also, trolling is a great way to locate those fish. You can troll until you start finding the fish, get some bites, or find a productive depth range, and then you can put those live baits out. And most of these wahoos have been in the 25 to 30 pound range. Now, I got another photo here. This is a big wahoo caught aboard the Spellbound. They were fishing out of Hauliver Inlet with Captain Brian Fraioli.
Man, that's some good eats there, Jimbo. Thank you so much for all the pictures this week. It's time for the Black Oak LED hotspots from the southeast region. He says inshore, look for the snook in all the inlets and off the beaches in the early morning and in the evenings where they are eating both live and artificial baits. And then offshore, head offshore and search for the bird activity, floating debris and weed lines, and be ready to catch the dolphin that with a rigged ballyhoo. Small live baits and cut bonitos are going to do that too.
Always ready to catch some dolphin. All right, when you're on the road, make sure you show your support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Funds from the sale of the redfish tag directly support protecting and enhancing marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Remember, you need to get yours right now at your local DMV or redfishtag.com.
It says it right there. It says it right there.
It does.
Get one.
It does. Get
you
one.
got you one.
I got me one.
All
I
right.
did. All right, if you're having the bass blues, have no worries. Our Takeuchi Keys region has the cure. So stay with us while we get Captain Ridge Murphy on the line coming up next.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. 30 years of fishing for adventure. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. And Taco Marine. Master the catch.
I'm gonna go park the truck, babe. I got the kids. Getting your boat on the water requires your full attention. And having a family with you is no easy task. That's why Power Pole is like having an extra set of hands, making a day on the water the best it could be with less stress and more time for fun with friends and family. Family fun made easy because of Power Pole, and that's your Power Pole tip of the week.
You know, Brie, you look good driving that Pathfinder. Maybe we need to get you one.
Thanks. I thought I was taking that one home, but you took it back from me.
I know.
You did.
That's
All
our
right.
Indian giver.
Yeah, exactly. When you think of the Takeuchi Keys region, bass typically don't come to mind, but grab your shiners or bass assassins because Captain Ridge Murphy knows where they are and is putting us on the big ones. Hi, Ridge.
Hey, when it comes to bass fishing here in the Keys, we don't have much of it. But here in the Alta Equipment region, we do have some bass fishing, mostly in the northern sections of the region, the canals on the stretch, and the canals surrounding the Everglades are full of peacock bass and largemouth bass. There's also lots of residential lakes and homestead that hold lots of bass, and you can fish all these places with live shiners with a small eagle claw circle hook or an artificial like a Bass Assassin RSD, little tapper, curly tail worm, and black, purple, watermelon red, or June bug. Berkeley hard baits will also work like the Cutter 90 and copper or chartreuse, and bass fishing is a fun way to get out on the water and have a change of pace. It's a good alternative for bad weather fishing, and it's always a fun day out for the little guys. I have a photo of Earl Bird III with a nice peacock bass that he caught and another nice largemouth bass, and those are actually caught right off the stretch right there in that northern section on those canals.
All right, what else you got for me, bub?
In transitioning from the edges of the flats and the potholes and the snooks are laying up and staging in the high current areas, fish a Bass Assassin paddle tail or bounce a shrimp on a jig and look for the snooks as you're going up on the flats and as you're coming off the flats. These fish are ranging from 23 inches to lower slot with the occasional jumbo mixed in. As you're pulling along, look for the blowouts, and once you see a few, slow down, start blind casting in the green holes, and look for that stick-like silhouette with the yellow fin, 30 to 40-pound fluorocarbon leader on a Fenwick Elite medium fast to medium heavy rod. And I have a photo of Captain Randy Tao with his grandson with a nice snook that they caught out in Florida Bay.
Aw, fish fans.
Ah, that's so
cute.
good.
Awesome.
All right, what do you got offshore, big boy?
I spoke to Captain Justin Miller off the Real McCoy out of Bud and Mary's, and he says that there's lots of bamboo that's starting to flush through the Gulf Stream. Kind of hit and miss, but if you can find the floaters, you're going to get them. As you're running offshore, look for floaters that are holding mahi. He says that once you pop out the reef, you're in mahi territory, 350 feet of water to 1,500 feet of water. Run and gun, looking for birds and floaters. You control an R&R mahi magnet around the floater and the debris until you get one on, and then use live filtered cigar minnows, dead ballyhoos, or squid. Once you have a few on, you can get a couple, keep them chumming up, keep them coming up into the boat. For tackle, 20-pound spinning rods with a 40-pound fluorocarbon leader on a 7.0 Eagle Claw Shaughnessy J-hook. And I have a photo that was sent in by Justin Miller with a bunch of nice mahis that they got on their haul the other day on their charter.
Nice. All right, tell me about the blackfin tunas.
Also, blackfin tunas on the humps have been pretty good. You got to go get the live bait and then start spraying filters behind the boat. You're going to free line 2 to 3 rods at a time with 20 to 30-pound mono, clear or blue. You can tie straight to an Eagle Claw live bait hook, but then you run the risk of chewing through. If not, you can always use a 40-pound fluorocarbon leader as a good insurance policy, but you want to drop the baits back behind the boat with little resistance after it bumps into the current, and you're going to chum those tunas up and get them all fired up. And stay on top of that fish once you have them on. That way you guys can go reset afterwards, because the sharks have been pretty bad. So stay on top of that fish, catch those guys, catch the 2 or 3 you have on, and then move on to the next time, reset and do another school trip.
All right, Ridge, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys, Takahuchi region. Ridge says that inshore, the bonefish on the flats, mudding or tailing, throw a bucktail jig or a live shrimp up current and slide it past them. Remember, keep the rod tip up once you hook the fish so that he can't rub you off on the bottom. The other thing you want to do offshore, the mahis, 350 to 1,500 feet of water, looking for the birds and the debris, throwing live cigar minnows or pieces of squid on a spinning rod with an Eagle Claw live bait hook, Brie.
It's Takeuchi.
I got it.
You got it. All right, now
That's
it's
what I
time
said,
to take okay. It's time to take a look at some tournaments going on in the Florida Keys. First up, anglers take to the deep water off Marathon in search of the heaviest swordfish September 27th and 28th during Swordfest, with tournament proceeds funding warriors on the water. Next is the Key Largo Rotaries Take Stock in Children Backcountry Challenge, which allows fishing day and night from Friday, October 4th through Sunday the 6th, followed by the presentations of awards for releases of redfish, snook, and trout in adult and junior divisions. Then anglers compete for awards in 3 divisions: artificial fly and bait for the longest bonefish and permit during the 54th annual Isla Mirada Fall All Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship, October 14th through the 16th. And finally, participants in the Marathon Offshore Swordfish Tournament choose 2 out of 3 fishing days, October 18th, 19th, and 20th, to reel in the largest swordfish by weight with cash prizes for 1st and 2nd place. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. But we have officially heard from every captain, and there are bass ready to be caught all over the state of Florida. But before we send you off to catch your PB, stay with us to see what we're trolling for next week. I wonder what it is.
I don't know.
We'll be back. Next week, we're talking Wahoo, so make sure to tune in for that one. I'm already thinking sushi.
Yep.
What do we have here, Rick?
So
Who's
this
been in
is
here?
obviously Hall of Famer Shaw. Shaw, I want to ask you something. So many times people get frustrated with bass fishing or any fishing in general. What do you think is the key to having a good day versus a bad day? Where do we make our mistakes?
A lot of times it's, where you're casting your lure. I mean, bass especially are so oriented to cover, points, pockets, edges. It's very similar to saltwater. I mean, You're looking for the same type of stuff. And so if you cast over here and you've got a point here or a little pocket or some change in, where you get 2 types of vegetation mixing together, and you're not casting there, well, you might not get the fish. So, and the other thing is a lot of people do not want to cast in the stuff. They want to stay on the edge, and a lot of times you got to get in that stuff to get the big one.
Got to get
dirty.
You got to get dirty. You got to get in the backyard.
That's it, right?
You got to
get
be
in the
careful,
kitchen,
though.
baby.
It could be
right
a big
on
bad
there.
dog in the backyard. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
What a great help with Dave, and I'm just so grateful that you were there.
It's true.
Not that Dave can't handle it, but you know what?
Dave can hold
It's
his
just so
own.
different when you have when you have a pro, expert. You know what I mean? It just adds so much to Dave's questions. It really does. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our studio audience that came with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaw. We'll see everyone next week. Go catch them. Bye us.